My name is Frank Hynes, as Kevin said, and look, I have been through a certain amount of change over the years, but I spent 28 years working in one organisation. And I can safely say for the last 6 years of it, I was seriously thinking of leaving, and probably for most of the previous 22 years I was thinking of leaving as well. And the problem is, of course, as I just mentioned in the answer to, when I was answering Kevin's question, is that I was in the comfort of a decent job with fairly decent pay. I had all sorts of reasons why I shouldn't move. I was married and I had family and children attending college, etc., and I was going to need the finances. So there was always reasons not to move. But during that 6-year period, I did a lot of research and a lot of study and a lot of looking up and trying to figure out where I should turn to. And while I could always find jobs that I could do, I could never really find a job that I really wanted to do. So I started turning my attention, instead of looking for jobs, is trying to figure out what I actually wanted to do. And I find that most people that are interested in changing careers, is that their biggest fear is that they don't know what to do. And it can be quite difficult because, we finished school all those years ago, we drifted into college, maybe it was the course we wanted, or maybe it was the course we didn't want, but it was just the course we got. And that one thing led to another, that brought us on to a particular job, and we followed a path without ever having any real plan of where we wanted to end up. So when you reach maybe my age, or maybe, hopefully, well, obviously for most of you, several years younger than that, but you'll start asking questions, is why did I get to here? I never really had a plan to get here. I never really had a plan to get here in the first place. So I'm encouraging you to start asking questions. When you start looking for a job, the one thing we're always interested in is, what does the employer want? And have you got the skills that the employer is looking for? We look at the jobs market, we see what's been advertised. So the topic of what I'm going to talk about today, did it move? It didn't. Oh, sorry. Yeah, okay. The topic I'm talking about is returning to work or changing careers. What are the key skills that employers are looking for? And it's very important when you're actually in the search of a job that you know what the employers want. Now, if you're a doctor and you're looking for a job as a physician, you're going to have to show that you have skills that you can actually do the operation, or you can actually do the investigation, the clinical investigations or examinations. If you're an accountant, you'll need skills in relation to bookkeeping, auditing, etc. If you're an engineer, you might, depending on the type of engineering, you might need to understand and demonstrate your capacity to operate AutoCAD. If you're a painter and decorator, you need to know how to mix paints and to understand colours. And those are very specific jobs related to the specific job you're looking at. But what's actually far more important are the transferable skills that you can actually bring from one job to another. So those are the skills that I'm actually going to talk about. Because in actual fact, in today's day, employers don't worry so much about the physical skills that most of us have, because in actual fact, most of us have the capacity to learn those. The problem is most of us don't have the capacity to learn stuff that we need to develop over a number of years. And I'm going to talk about seven key skills. And the first one I'm talking about is being a team player. Are you a team player? Do you fit in with your colleagues at work? And even if you're working in an office on your own, and for a number of years, when I started the first couple of years of the 28-year career that I had in that company, I was in an office on my own. But even then, I was part of a team. There was a network of other people around the country in similar positions to me, some in large offices and some in small offices. But I was still part of a team, so it was very important that I was able to work as a team, and as a team player. Have you got the skills? Have you the skills? Maybe at some stage you might become a team leader. Have you the skills to recognise the strengths and weaknesses in other people? For years and years, I was being told to identify your weaknesses and work on those. I totally disagree with that. I think, yes, we need to understand the weaknesses we have. But I think if we understand our strengths, work on your strengths, employ or collaborate with others who have strengths in the areas that you have weaknesses. Can you do that? Are you able to observe those things? And can you show that you can actually put a team together? It's very, very common nowadays that we're being asked to lead teams of diverse organisations, people from all sorts of backgrounds. And can you inspire those? Have you got the capacity to inspire those rather than literally being telling people what to do? Far more important. One of the big problems in careers is that certain people reach high levels because they're good managers, not necessarily because they're good leaders. If you can show that you have the team skills to bring a team together, it's very, very significant no matter what job you go to. Whether it's and you can always learn the physical skills on the job. Okay, if I mentioned something like a doctor and engineer, it takes longer training for those, and you need specific skills for those. But for many of the jobs that you go to, these are the type of skills that are very, very important. Are you a good communicator is the second one. I start with verbal communication. If you're going to be part of a teamwork, going to be involved in teamwork, you're going to be able to communicate with your fellow team members. But you're also going to need to be able to communicate with your customers and your clients. And you need to be able to communicate at all levels of the organisation. I will add in written communication, because written communication has become much more important in recent years. When you think about the progress with social media, internet marketing, being able to write is very, very important. Being able to read a report, maybe a highly technical report, and decipher it into simple language so that you can actually help the team to understand it. Again, if you can show that you've got those skills, you're putting yourself ahead of so many others that will be entering the jobs market against you. The third skill I'm talking about is analysis and problem solving. Are you able to solve problems? Can you take the information that's available on any given situation, analyze it, put it together, and come up with a solution to a problem? When we think about analysis and problem solving, we often think of mathematical equations. I'm not talking about mathematical equations. I'm talking about, literally, it might be a small bit of a conflict in the office. It might be some new program that's been implemented by the organisation. But can you take the situation in hand, use your team, use your communications that I've already spoken about, and analyse that problem and come up with a solution, so that you may have shown those type of skills in your involvement in a local sports club. You don't actually have to show all these skills in the existing career you have. You can show them from your personal life. They're part of you. They're part of what you bring to the table. So that's quality and skill number 3. Number 4 is adaptability. One thing that's probably the most certain of all things in today's jobs market is that change is inevitable. And can you show that you are prepared to adapt to change? Do you embrace change? I was in an organisation with a couple of thousand people, and any time there was an effort to bring in some new program, there was always a strong resistance to change. And any of you who are working in even a small organisation, there will be a reluctance to accept change. Change is daunting. And there are many, many people have strong resistance to change and do not want to embrace it. Can you show that you are the opposite of that? Can you show that you're quite willing and prepared to adapt to changes that are necessary? Who could have seen, 3 years ago, who could have foreseen all the changes that were brought upon us by COVID? And if you are resistant to change, you will find it very difficult to survive in an organisation into the future, because change is certainly going to be constant. Gone too far. Quality 6, being creative and showing your initiative. This actually very much goes hand in hand, particularly the one with analysis and problem solving. But can you show that you're prepared to come up with creative ways of doing things? Again, creative ways of meeting the challenges that are being brought about by the change. Creative ways and using your initiative to solve the problems. You can see those 6 skills so far all really cut across one another very, very much. But those are skills that we develop over time, really from the time we are born until to your present day, and you will keep developing them over life. They're not necessarily tied to any particular job, but if you can show your strengths in those 6 areas, they put you way ahead in terms as a competitor for the job. We've often been told we should learn to work smarter, not harder. And again, those 6 skills would be very much going hand in hand with that. If you can show your capacity to deal with those skills, that you have those skills, you can show your capacity to actually work smart and not hard. You can become efficient. You can get the team to work with you. You can get the team to do an awful lot of stuff for you. You can show your leadership skills. But inevitably, times will get tough, and there will be tough periods. As I already mentioned, COVID. When times do get tough, employers want something more. They want to know that their employee is someone who is a committed worker, somebody who will put their shoulder to the wheel when the going gets tough, that they're not just looking for the easy option. So again, over a period of time, if you have shown consistently that you are prepared to stand up and be counted, to stand up when the need arises. So those are the 7 key skills that I believe will be far outweigh most of the physical skills that anybody in any organisation is looking for. They make you employable, they make you a welcome team member, and an addition to the team. But I believe, ladies and gentlemen, there's a far more important question that you need to answer. When you go looking for a job, we search jobs that are advertised, or we search for jobs that people tell us about, and the first thing we want to know is, how do I go about getting that job? What is it the employer wants? And I have identified 7 things that the employer will want. But I think that the more important thing that you should start asking is, what do you want? How many of you actually asked yourself, what do you want? Now, what is wrong in your current career? What are your career aspirations? What's holding you back from making the change that you're entitled to? And what should you do to address all of these issues? I believe when you go in for an interview, the interview should be a two-way process. Certainly you're trying to convince the employer to give you a job. And the employer is trying to figure out, are you the best person for the job? Another very, very important reason I believe you should be in for an interview is to figure out, do you want this job? How many of us end up jumping from one to another only to find out this is not what I thought it would be? Or you start out, you go down the road of a particular career to find out this is not what I really wanted to do. So you need to start asking questions, and I would say maybe if it's your first job, you're probably you can be less choosy. You need to get a start somewhere. But once you're in the job and you're thinking about change, you really need to start looking at, what do I really want to do? And that is a huge challenge for us all. The hints for this will come from your past. And I'm not talking about just your past job. Most of us define ourselves by the job we're in. Oh, I'm a teacher. I'm a bank official. I'm a nurse. I'm an engineer, or whatever. But there's an awful lot more to you than the job you're doing. How many of us actually spend our life worrying about work? We're in a stressful job, we come home in the evening. Whether we like it or not, it's on our mind. We say we won't bring home the work. But you're bringing home your mood from work. It's affecting your family life. It's affecting your social life. It's affecting the people around you. I believe we need to start creating jobs for ourselves as part of our life. Most of the things we really want to satisfy us in a job actually are the things we really want in life. And a regular topic I speak about are the things that people want. And people tell me, I want basic income so that I have my basic needs. I want a sense of belonging of a part of a team. I have to have comrades. I want to get a sense of self-satisfaction, self-actualization, self-esteem, feeling good about what I'm doing. And I want it to fit in with my values, the values of life-work balance, family life, etc. Honesty, integrity. It's funny about we want those from our jobs, but those are the things we want from life as well. So let's start getting the job that'll fit in with our life. 85% of people, and survey after survey all over the world, including Ireland, shows that 85% of people are not happy in their job. And of those 85%, approximately half of them literally hate their job. The good news of that is that if there's 85% not happy, there's 15% are happy. I challenge you to become one of the 15%. Don't be worrying about the 85%, let them take care of themselves. But let you become one of the 15%, and let's increase the 15% as need be. So ladies and gentlemen, Steve Jobs said the only way to do great work is to love what you do. And if you haven't found it yet, keep looking and don't settle. That is a challenge I'm putting to you today. Challenge yourself to find what is right for you. It may not be the next job, but let the next job at least be a stepping stone in that direction. For people who have attended this or attending this today, I have two websites. I have Jobchanger.ie, and I have a newly addition to it is Frank Hynes Coaching.com. For people who are interested, I'm offering a free career discovery call. It's basically about 3/4 of an hour for people who are interested. Details are available on a page on that website, how to quit the job you hate. There's an opportunity. I explain on that what that call is all about. After reading that page, if you feel the call will be of benefit to you, go ahead and book it. It's a free call, and it's available to anybody who is seriously interested about it. But I don't want to talk about people who are not serious about looking at this. I'm certainly happy to talk to anybody who's seriously interested. So with that, Kevin, I think I will call it a halt. And thank you very much for your attention, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, just one other. I'll remind you that there's clipboards around there if people want to put their name and address for contact details. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much, Frank, for your talk there. It's very interesting. I think for people here, the main thing is that if you're struck with that fear of having to go back into the workplace, you've been out of it for a period of time for whatever reason, and if you're just struggling to make the first step or to even imagine what the process could be like, do you have any specific advice for people just to actually even get themselves into the right frame of mind where they can push themselves forward again?
Okay, Kevin, I'll come to that from two angles. First of all, by figuring out what you want to do, that in itself provides a bit of motivation to go down that direction, because you're having, we may have memory of a job that we did in the past. Maybe we were working in the bank, for example, and we're quite depressed in it. And the fear of going back, I've certainly would have spoken to people in that position. The fear of going back to that is what's actually worrying them. But the big change, you've actually been perhaps been doing something that you've enjoyed for the last 7 or 8 or 10 years. And now you're thinking to go back into the workforce, and you can think of the bad experience you had in the past. But you start figuring out what is really going to inspire you, this provides some motivation for you. But the second thing I'm going to say about it, and it's to do with literally facing your fears. And Susan Jeffers wrote a book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And she says literally the best way of getting over fear is to go and do it anyway. Many of you will have heard of Bob Proctor. He's a famous American mentor, coach, guru. He passed away there a few months ago. But he talked about the terror barrier. And he describes the terror barrier as being like a little guy on your shoulder. Every time you want to do something, or that you attempt to do something that's different, that's strange, there's like a little guy on your shoulder telling you to get back into the comfort zone and don't do it. And Bob suggests, look, knowing that it's there is not going to make it go away. But knowing that it's there and to expect it helps you to be prepared for it. And he says, again, the best way to do it is to literally drive on through it, keep an eye on the prize, get an eye on that prize or what that prize might be, keep your eye on the prize and don't look back. So that's I suppose, best I can say, Kevin, at this stage.
Okay, well, thank you for that answer. And if I could just ask one more question. So for a person who's been out of the workplace for a period of time, for example, out of the workplace for 5 years, and you're looking to return, and you're worried that things have changed. So things have moved on. There might be different people in the workplace. There might be new practices, might be new technology, which has come in since you moved on. And you're trying to think of how to get up to speed with what could have changed. There might be some things that you can't change. You can't change the fact that some staff have moved on. You can't change the fact that the company might have been sold under new management, but you're struck with the fear of the unknown. So it's a bit like the question I've asked you a second ago, but when it comes to work practices, technology, how things have changed, would you suggest people should go into training themselves on a private level before they go back, or should the employer be responsible for helping people get up to speed?
Okay, Kevin, yeah. I think, again, I'm going to look at it from two angles. One is the skills that I've spoken about there. Even in the 5 years you've been out of work, and I'll think typically of maybe a stay-at-home parent who has stayed at home looking after children. They've been out of the official workplace, and they very much look back and they say, well, before I took time off to look after my children, maybe I was a teacher. So they automatically think teaching is the only job I'm qualified for, and now they're worried about the changes that have taken place in the schools and the school system and the curriculum, etc. But all those skills that you have actually developed over the years while you were minding your children are maybe the skills that you can actually bring with you into the next job, and you don't necessarily need to go back into teaching. Although, again, looking after children, the skills would very much coincide with going back to teaching. If you're looking for a job, if after you do the bit of work on yourself and figuring out what you want, and you eventually figure out that there are certain skills that you need, it is actually quite easy to upskill yourself through short programs online these days. But the biggest mistake I think some people make is that they feel, you know what, I always thought I'd like to go teaching. So what I'll do is I'll go back, I'll return to college, and I'll do the Hibernia and get the HDIP. That may be the right thing for you, but unless you know you're doing the right thing, don't do it. Don't figure out if it's the right thing for you first. Doing a course in the hopes that it will get you a job is a very poor reason to do it. Only do the course if you know it's the right course for you. So you got to start with yourself and start figuring out what is right for you. I don't know, does that answer your question?
Yes, Kevin?
It does. Yeah, okay. So, okay.
Okay, so thank you very much, Frank Hynes.